Welcome to becoming a millionaire in 5 years.
Ever wonder how something small, like a little bit of unmelted snow, could be the secret to, say, retiring early? It sounds crazy, right? But we're diving into a book today that connects those dots, those seemingly totally unrelated ideas. And trust me, the implications are huge for all of us.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept. And you're right, one that often flies under the radar.
Absolutely. We're talking about the power of compounding, that idea that small, consistent changes can snowball into massive results over time. And this book, it kicks things off with a really surprising example: ice ages.
You know, you wouldn't think that understanding how glaciers form could help us grow our money, but, well, here we are.
Here we are. Okay, so I've got to ask, how do those massive blocks of ice even form?
Well, it's funny you should mention scientists, they had a tough time figuring out what caused ice ages. Volcanoes, mountains, those were some of the early guesses, but none of them really panned out. You know, they didn't really explain the cyclical nature of these events. The fact that they seem to come and go in these predictable patterns.
Yeah, it's like trying to figure out why the stock market goes up and down by studying, I don't know, the migratory patterns of butterflies or something. It just doesn't quite add up.
Precisely. It doesn't add up. But then this scientist named Milutin Milankovitch, he came along in the early 1900s, and he kind of changed the game.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
He had this radical idea that the answer wasn't on Earth. It was, in the stars.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So our planet's orbit is the key to understanding these massive climate shifts.
Not the stars exactly, but Earth's position in space. Yeah.
It's wild.
It's all about these subtle variations in Earth's orbit. And its tilt, too, relative to the sun. And these variations, which, by the way, Milankovitch meticulously calculated, they impact how much solar radiation reaches different parts of the Earth, right? And crucially, these changes happen over extremely long periods. We're talking tens of thousands of years.
Okay, I'm picturing these slight wobbles in our orbit over millennia. But how do those tiny changes translate into something as dramatic as an ice age?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. So initially, scientists thought that these shifts that you were just talking about led to much colder winters, right? Which then triggered the ice ages. It seems logical, right?
Yeah, totally.
But then they discovered something truly counterintuitive.
So it wasn't the bone-chilling winters that tipped the scales towards an ice age. What was it then?
It turns out it was mild summers, of all things. Mild summers were the real culprits.
Mild summers. I never would have guessed that. How does that even work?
Okay, so imagine a summer that's just a tad cooler than usual. Not enough to, make headlines or anything, but just enough that some snow from the previous winter, it lingers. That leftover snow, it acts like a giant mirror reflecting sunlight back into space, and that amplifies the cooling effect. So it makes it even more likely that the next winter, the snow won't melt away entirely either.
Ah, I see where this is going. It's a chain reaction, right?
Exactly, a chain reaction. It creates a feedback loop where that initial small change, the slightly cooler summers, sets off this domino effect. Year after year, more snow sticks around, reflecting more sunlight, amplifying the cooling until, you've got yourself an ice age.
It's crazy, really mind-blowing. It's like that saying, little hinges swing big doors. But okay, we've talked about ice ages, but I'm still waiting for the connection to my portfolio.
Oh, trust me, it's a powerful one. This same principle, small changes leading to massive results, it plays out in a surprising place, our financial lives.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd circle back to that.
Think of that unmelted snow as your initial investment. Every year it doesn't melt away completely. That's like earning a return on that investment. And just like that extra bit of snow each year, it creates a bigger base for even more snow to accumulate those returns. When reinvested, they create a larger base for generating even more returns. That, my friend, is the magic of compounding.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. So how does this play out in the real world? Give me an example.
Let's talk about Warren Buffett. I mean, he's practically a household name when it comes to investing, and for good reason. But here's what most people miss about Buffett's success. It's not just that he's been consistently making smart investment decisions. It's that he's been doing it for an insanely long time, over 70 years. He's been letting those returns compound on top of each other for decades.
So it's like those slightly cooler summers.
Yeah.
Over time, those seemingly small gains just keep building and building.
Exactly. The vast majority of Buffett's wealth, something close to 99%, was actually earned after his 50th birthday. Let that sink in for a moment.
Wow.
Even though he was already a successful investor in his earlier years, the real explosion of his wealth didn't happen until much later in life, all thanks to the power of compounding.
Wow, that's incredible. So even for someone like Warren Buffett, who's been at the top of the investing game for decades, starting early and letting that money compound over the long haul, it made all the difference. It really highlights how powerful this effect is over time.
Yeah, and it's not just about finding the investment with the highest potential return in any given year. It's about finding something that provides consistent, reasonable returns that you can stick with for years, even decades. Because over those long stretches of time, even small differences in returns can lead to dramatically different outcomes.
Now, that's not to say that chasing returns is always a bad thing, right? I mean, what about those investors who aim for the absolute highest returns, even if it means taking on more risk? Don't they end up coming out ahead?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another fascinating case study. Jim Simons, founder of the hedge fund Renaissance Technologies. Now, Simons is known for his incredibly secretive and complex trading algorithms. And get this, his average annual returns have actually been significantly higher than Buffett's.
Wow, higher than Buffett's. That's impressive.
It is. But here's where the compounding effect, it throws us another curveball. While Simons is incredibly wealthy, he's actually less wealthy than Buffett.
Wait, hold on. Higher returns, but less wealth overall. How is that even possible?
It all boils down to timing. You see, Simons didn't achieve his incredible track record of investment success until later in life. He's essentially had less time for those returns to compound compared to Buffett.
So even though he's arguably been the better investor, at least in terms of pure returns, he's still trailing behind Buffett because he started later. That's wild. It really drives home how important that head start is when it comes to compounding.
It does, and it highlights another crucial point about compounding. It's not always intuitive. Our brains are wired to think linearly. We see a problem, we want to solve it with a direct proportional effort. But compounding doesn't work that way. It's exponential growth, which is much harder for us to grasp, let alone plan for effectively.
It's almost like we're wired to understand adding, but not multiplying.
Exactly. It's like our intuition just can't quite wrap itself around that kind of exponential growth. And there's that classic example, the story of the chessboard and the grains of rice. Have you heard that one?
I think so, vaguely. Remind me how it goes.
So the inventor of chess, he goes to the king and he asks for what seems like a really small reward. 1 grain of rice on the first square of the board, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, and so on, doubling with each square. Ah, okay. And of course, by the time you get to the end of the chessboard, you're talking about an astronomical amount of rice.
Precisely. The king, he's thinking linearly, right? And he drastically underestimates the power of that doubling effect. It's a mistake, honestly. It's a mistake we see repeated time and again, even in the tech world.
Really?
Yeah. Remember when Gmail first launched?
Yeah.
With a then unheard of gigabyte of storage?
Oh, I do. I remember thinking, who on earth needs this much storage space?
Right. It seemed like an absurd amount back then. And get this, even Bill Gates, a visionary in the tech world, even he questioned who would ever need that much storage.
Yeah.
He was still thinking within that paradigm of linear growth, failing to grasp how quickly storage capacity would explode thanks to compounding, thanks to the compounding effects of technological advancements. It's a humbling reminder that even the brightest minds can miss the power of compounding, especially in fields that are rapidly evolving and changing. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, okay, how do we, as non-billionaires, harness this force? We're not all Warren Buffett or Jim Simons after all.
Right, exactly. And you absolutely don't have to be a financial wizard to benefit from compounding. The key takeaway here is it's surprisingly simple. Start early, be consistent, and be patient.
Easier said than done in a world of instant gratification.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. When you understand that even small, consistent efforts, they can compound over time into remarkable results, it changes your whole perspective. It's not about finding that get-rich-quick scheme or the magic shortcut. It's about embracing the long game, showing up consistently, even when the results seem insignificant, especially at first.
Because those seemingly small actions, repeated day after day, year after year, those are what have the power to create the truly extraordinary outcomes. It's like the thin layer of unmelted snow building up season after season until, bam, you've got an ice age on your hands.
Exactly. And the best part is, this principle, it isn't limited to finance. It's everywhere. Think about learning a new language or writing a book, building a business, nurturing relationships even. These things all operate on the principle of compounding. Small, consistent efforts made over a sustained period, they can lead to outcomes that are far greater than the sum of their parts.
It's an empowering thought, isn't it? That we all have the ability to tap into this force just by changing our perspective a little bit and embracing the long game.
It really is. It's about recognizing that, sometimes the most important thing isn't finding the sexiest investment or the fastest track to success, but simply starting, staying consistent, and letting time work its magic.
And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of compounding.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to leave you with this. What small, consistent action can you take today to set yourself up for those massive results down the line? Something to ponder. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming a Millionaire in 5 years. Remember, every small step you take today brings you closer to your millionaire goals. If you found value in today's video, please give us a thumbs up and share it with someone who's also ready to change their financial future. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, let's turn those dreams into reality. See you next time.